as a former education minister from Northern Ireland, keep my remarks relatively succinct because I think a lot of these substances of the ground has been covered by my two previous colleagues who covered very comprehensively, as with Weir also to speak in the debate on illegal migration. But I join with others in expressing concerns with the content, particularly the way this has been brought about. And it's clear to me that the phrase which keeps coming back to me is the implementation of this SI is lack of respect. It is a lack of respect for the sensitivities around the issue of abortion. It is a lack of respect for the ethos and belief of many of the people in Northern Ireland. It is a lack of respect for the devolutionary settlement. It is a lack of respect for basic democratic process. It is a lack of respect, actually, for educational process itself, which I'll touch upon later, and deeply a lack of respect for educational stakeholders at so many different levels. As has been indicated, this has been something which has been a myriad of steps taken in which undemocratic process has been grafted on top of undemocratic process. It arises, as has been indicated, from Section 9 of the legislation, which itself was an accelerated passage and grafted on top of that on a one-issue subject. And indeed, the CEDAW recommendations itself, which was meant to be advisory, itself was grafted onto the issue of abortion within Northern Ireland. And it has been indicated that in terms of democratic scrutiny, the provisions in 86D of CEDAW did not merit a single minute of debate when this was discussed in primary legislation. And then beyond that, we have now seen this as being introduced without any consultation whatsoever. That is the concerns that have been raised in relation to that have been highlighted by the Secondary Legislation Subcommittee, which have also highlighted the fact that it seems uniquely that some of the provisions of this will be brought in immediately rather than the normal 21 days. Now, the Minister, I think, made reference in his opening remarks that the intention of government was to produce a situation which then put Northern Ireland in a similar position to that of England. Yet that is not accurate, because in England proper consultation at least took place. Now, there are many things the government does that all of us in different levels will disagree with, but at least if we're all given the opportunity to input into that through proper consultation, at least due process has taken place. This has circumvented that and not put the people in Northern Ireland in the same position. It put them in an inferior position to the people of England and Wales. It also cuts across educational process. Why do I say that? The Baroness previously, I think, rightly made reference to the Gillen report. And the substance, particularly of the Gillen report around RSE, particularly was a focus on critical issues of consent, of issues particularly of respect for females, and ensuring that actual relationships were conducted in a respectful manner, which hopefully will mean that we can at least reduce, in an ideal world, eliminate sexual abuse within that. Yet it has to be said, this SI tackles none of the subjects which are at the forefront of the Gillen report. And indeed, it circumvents the work that has been going on in the Department of Education and the Department of Justice on the Gillen report. When I was Minister alongside Minister Long, we would not hold similar views on issues such as abortion. Yes.
Doesn't the existence of the properly run relationship and education include all the things that were mentioned in the Gillen report? That's why I referred to it.
Yes, and you're right to refer to it. But the issue is this SI doesn't touch upon the main recommendations of the Gillen report. Exactly. It made specific recommendations about what should be there in terms of RSE and indeed how the departments could work together on that subject. This SI completely ignores that. It puts it, from that point of view, the cart before the horse, and actually
completely ignores and abrogates what is there within the Gillen report. Now, when the Gillen report was produced, as I said, both myself and Minister Long, who would take a very different view, I would say, on the issue of abortion. We are not at one in relation to that. But we worked together through both departments to set up a joint working group of the two departments on how RSE could be taken forward, and particularly how the recommendations of the Gillen report could be best implemented. This simply cuts across that. It ignores that ongoing work and seeks to impose from the NIO above all of these things. Again, the concern is there of where this leaves a wide range of stakeholders. Mention has been made, I think, by Baroness Ritchie of a wide range of educational groups across the spectrum, and the fact that they have been completely ignored. I don't think that's a particularly healthy thing as regards Northern Ireland. But I've been inundated, particularly by school principals, by teachers, who are deeply concerned that they have effectively been thrown into the fire in relation to this. Now, it may come as a little bit of a surprise that, as a former education minister, there are still some teachers who are actually willing to speak to me. But undoubtedly, they are deeply concerned. And these are not, when I refer to headmasters or teachers, not all those with exactly the same view on abortion. They would have a range of views on these subjects. But what they feel is that they had been thrown in at the deep end by government without any prior knowledge and without any prior consultation. They will be left on the ground to pick up the pieces without a clue as to how this is to be implemented. Similarly, from the point of view of those who give their time, and let us remember this is a voluntary process, as school governors, they are left with the legal duty of implementing this. Again, without any level of input into the process. And we know that, and I suspect across the country, quite often it is difficult to find people who are willing to give the time and put their head above their parapets to be a school governor. But frankly, if stakeholders are simply treated with contempt, then that process will become even more difficult. Let me finish, I suppose, by mentioning one thing and agreeing in part with one thing that the Minister said in his introduction. He said there's a need for, and I'm quoting here, meaningful engagement. Would it not have been better if that meaningful engagement actually had taken place before the SI was introduced? And I would urge the government, if it is genuinely committed to meaningful engagement, to put its money where its mouth is, pause these regulations, and actually have that proper consultation. It will not obfuscate many of the democratic flaws in this process, or indeed, I think, some of the restrictions that are there within the SI, but at least it will ensure that there is the opportunity for people to have their proper say in relation to this, rather than trying to shut the stable door after the horse is bolted.